Hi, I'm Mark Gorman from Matrix Solutions, and this is our first quarter 2019 update. I am coming to you from the Grand Hyatt by Grand Central Station in New York, which apparently this building's been sold and is going to be torn down, so something to expect and some excitement here in New York. So anyway, this year, of course, is a year that's big on data, as always. We at Matrix have a big focus on data, ensuring that we're integrating, aggregating data, making it useful. And it's quite interesting because for me, I always think about we are collecting so much data as organizations and even as human beings. So it's interesting to think about, if you think about the data that we've collected since the beginning of time, we as human beings, over 90% of that data that we've collected and created in the span of us as a species has been created in the last 2 years. And we know this is always accelerating. There's always more and more. But I always think, well, you can have all this data, but are you really using it? Is it effective? If you have so much, how overwhelming does it become? So this is something that's been on my mind for a while, and I believe if we haven't discussed it on these updates, we've certainly discussed it in presentations with clients, etc. Well, quite interesting, probably about 3 weeks ago or so now, Forbes had an article online where they talked about this very fact, and they mentioned that 2019, and I'm probably going to quote this wrong, 2019 is the year where it's the end of getting new data or exploring how we can create new data, but really the year of the intelligent app, or really what they were talking about is how do we use the data that we have today effectively to make things better. And so we always think about, and where we're striving, and hopefully you'll see a lot of this come, is more open integrations. When we talk about integrating with different systems, we are really focused on being a system that is open, using APIs, creating a structure that allows our clients, our prospects to think about the different systems they would like and how can they integrate that data and bring it to the forefront so it's more usable. So as an example, we are currently working on an integration with marketing automation and reputation management. And within that regard, we will build an open framework. We are specifically working with Vandasta and Buzzboard to create these types of integrations. But for us, it's important as you think about the data that you're bringing into your system, how do we make that usable? And so for us, because we sit with the AEs, we sit with their managers, we want to make sure that the information, the data for which you are paying a lot of money is coming into the system and is usable. And I would think that as our clients and our prospects, if you think the data that you're collecting, think about not just getting more and more data, but what is the value to you in having that data actually be used? We talk about, in fact, here at this conference, I gave an example of one of our clients that sells multiple different types of inventory in multiple locations, geographies, and one of the biggest issues they had is around the different inventory they're selling. They had different data sets that they wanted to expose because before using us, they were just looking at this data and their AEs had to go here, there, maybe once a month here, every other week here. Data wasn't used at all. They were wasting all their money because all they cared about was buying new data. They didn't care or think about how to make that data effective, usable, easy to get to. And so when they joined with us as a client, we brought in those different data feeds for them. And the data that we brought in, they measured it, because they wanted to hold our feet to the fire if we didn't produce results. They measured it and said to us, we saw an over 400% increase in the utilization of this data. Now granted, we were starting from a low point, but 400%, they were very, very happy for that with that number. And in fact, that allowed them as a organization to actually be faster in moving sales along and got better utilization out of their inventory as a result. So when I think about data, I think that's a great example of, we had a client who said, okay, we've collected all this data, but we're just not effectively deploying it. And that's important. So maybe this year, start thinking about, okay, how do we bring data together? How do we do it in a way that we group it together and that it actually has value? Because yeah, you can buy data, you can design it, you can build it, but if people aren't using it, if they don't have access to it, it's useless and you've wasted all your money. A second example is we have been talking to an organization. They're not our client, admittedly, but they said they have a massive problem. They're a pretty big organization. They have developed really great business intelligence, but out of their, let's say, 200 plus users in the sales department, 5 people have accessed them. They're like, we have spent millions. I mean, I estimated, I did the work, I estimated their team, etc. I would estimate they've spent somewhere between $7 and $9 million to develop this intelligence. And it's great. Who cares? They have wasted every dime of that because they haven't thought about, how do we get it out? How do we deploy it to the team? And frankly, they still haven't worked out that solution. They don't use us. We could do it for them, of course, but because they try to build everything in-house, their team is not equipped to actually figure out how to move that through the organization. So I would tell you this year, stop thinking about how do I get the latest and greatest data and start figuring out how do we get the value for all that data that we've already bought, created, and built. With that, have a great 2019, and for our clients, thank you for your business.